Live on DSTV channel 421, Go TV channel 125. This is Joy News Prime. I am Emefa Apawu. In the next 60 minutes, Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and flag bearer of NDC John Dramani Mahama storm Kumewu ahead of the by-election slated for next week. Both men hope to secure victory for their candidates. We'll take you live to Kumewu for updates. Also, Sun winners take over Ankafu Psychiatric Hospital. Management says the facility may be compelled to shut down if the activities continue. Some residents of Kumasi are unhappy about the state of the Kumasi Interchange project after government cut short for work to start in October 2022. Many thanks for staying with us. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media platforms for more of this bulletin and more from Joy News. Now into our very first story for this edition. Tension has heightened between the New Patriotic Party and an independent candidate in the Kumewu constituency as a by-election in the area draws closer. The NPP has over the years beaten all candidates to win the seat, but the independent candidate, Kwekudjia, came close to snatching it in the 2020 parliamentary election. With the emergence of another Kwekudjia as an independent candidate, the former is optimistic of beating all odds to win the seat this time. Nanaya Ochima has been looking at the heated exchanges between the two leading candidates as they enter the final lap of their campaigns.
The demise of Kumewu MP Philip Baswa necessitated a by-election to fill the vacant seat. In the 2020 parliamentary election, the deceased MP garnered over 14,000 votes, with the independent candidate Kwekudjia making 11,698. The NDC candidate who came third, Bernard Opokumafu, could make 2,439 votes. These results are, however, being contested by the independent candidate.
But to us who voted, and who are from this constituency, everybody knew that I won that election. And for that reason, I was bent on going to court to seek redress. Well, some movements went on and they came and apologized through the Omanyene. He's my grandfather. So when he called me, I obliged.
The independent candidate was once a member of the New Patriotic Party. He refused a call to reunite with the party after the 2020 general election. Mr. Dua explains.
So when they approached me that, hey, we want to know what you're going to do, they knew I was the right person to go. That's why they approached me in the first place. They should have asked me to go uncontested. And I told them that. I said, listen, if I contest with anybody, I will lose. Why? Because I don't have anybody to vote for me.
You don't have people in the polling stations to vote for you?
Exactly. Because they disqualified all my guys.
The NPP have since attacked his campaign, claiming the candidate is in bed with the opposition National Democratic Congress. Ashanti Regional Chairman of the NPP, Bernard Enchibu-Siakon, explains.
I have said no MPP, but why to say Judas is carrot? Say Kwekudjia ni did Judas is carrot. What are why why you come what you say?
He used to be a member of the NPP, but not anymore. He is a traitor. He can now be linked to the biblical Judas Iscariot. He is now in bed with the NDC. That is why his posters are green in color. The NDC knows they have no chance of winning the seats, so they are now relying on him.
NDC no yabema obi ehu NDC for no rely on it. NDC for him say omunya 2,800 and something. This election no anya de say NDC for no person mo ba na mom kwatua kwakohunu omo ana omo amaniska so remember you Kumewuma na enko no ho because say MPP ni NDC parliament na yaben.
The NPP has put up Ernest Yao Enim as candidate for the by-election. The candidates who are favored to win the seat have stepped up their campaign. The regional and national leadership of the New Patriotic Party are busy in the constituency, visiting almost all towns and villages in the enclave With their message, the independent candidate is, however, unfazed.
So we leave it to the people to decide whom they trust, whom they can trust, whom they think can deliver for them. And I'm doing it with my own money, with my own resources. So do you think if the government gives me something for developmental project within the constituency or the community, I'm going to blow it? No, I'll use it for that purpose. And let me tell you, I'm ready and willing to work with all the stakeholders.
The NPP is expected to climax its campaign with a rally on Sunday, where the President, Nana Akufo-Addo, is expected to be present. For Joy News, Nana Aljima, Kumeu.
So as it stands now, the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, is in the area as well, and so is flag bearer of the NDC, John Dramani Mahama, all, trying to garner votes for their various candidates in the Kumeu by-election. My colleague, Ohiming Teria, is on the grounds for us, as and when we're able to reach him, we'll bring you more on that. But whilst we wait, we'll move on to some other stories. And the serene grounds of the Anka Psychiatric Hospital in the Central Region are currently facing a concerning issue: aggressive sand-winning activities on their lands. Despite repeated warnings and pleas from the hospital, a group of individuals has chosen to ignore the potential consequences and continue with their sand-winning operations. The management of the psychiatric hospital is calling on the Ministry of Health, the Ghana Mental Health Authority, and other allied agencies to save the situation. Richard Kujonyako has more in the following report.
The management of the Anka Psychiatric Hospital has been very vocal about the potential risk and negative consequences associated with the ongoing sand winning on their lands. They have repeatedly warned about the environmental degradation that could result from the unchecked extraction of sand, emphasizing the importance of preserving the land for future generations. The hospital's concern extends beyond the environmental impact. They also highlight the potential disturbance caused by the sand winning activities, as the noise and dust generated can be detrimental to the well-being and recovery of their patients. The peaceful and therapeutic environment that the hospital strives to create for mental health care is being compromised by this ongoing activity. Speaking at a news briefing, Deputy Administrator of the hospital, Chere Thomas Kusano, indicated that there is looming danger at the hospital as the activities of some persons engaging in the sand winning on the hospital lands threaten the future survival of the facility.
We did a few contacts, and the indication was that the presiding member for the Commander Edina Iguafu Agreement, that is KEA Municipal Assembly, knew something about the person's presence there. So we took further steps to visit the site this morning to check what was happening. And fortunately, we met a gentleman on site who claimed that he was the one who had been granted a permit by the assembly to come and win the sand.
Meanwhile, the activities of these sand winners are not too far away from the hospital's director's bungalow and the hospital water pumping machine, a situation that is putting the hospital at greater risk.
What is happening for the hospital, and if care is not taken, we allow this activity to continue for the next 1 week or two, we cannot guarantee the safety of our booster pump station, our water. We cannot guarantee the safety of some of the bungalows around the area, particularly that of the hospital director and the deputy director for pharmaceutical services, also our maternity ward. We can't guarantee what will happen. So I just want to take this opportunity to call on the Ministry of Health, local government, and our own authority, the mental health authority, to step in immediately and call the presiding member of KEA to order. Then also the assembly, the local government ministry should show interest in this matter. It is about government lands and government properties. This is no individual matter. This matter has gone on for far too long. Nobody is paying attention. They have left it for management to fight it here. We cannot fight it alone. It is either the state is interested in the land or the state is not interested in the land. So we are calling on the Ministry of Health that we work under, local government that the assembly is under, where they are supposedly getting their permit from, to call the presiding member to order if what the gentleman on site said is true, that he had the permission from the presiding member to do what he's doing.
The municipal chief executive for the Commander Edna Igwafo municipality, Solomon Ebuapia, stated that nobody, including himself in the assembly, has given or granted any sand winning permit to any individual or group of people to win sand on the hospital's lands.
In view of that, you say you have called the police commander, and therefore, let me invite the press to come and blow it up. Even when they go to the fishery company, even the chief fisherman in Nampei, they even came to complain that there are people who are mining sand at the beach. Even the chief fisherman, he didn't call the media house to go and complain. The chief fisherman. So what was the intention? To run the government down? To let the people know that the government is not doing well? Is that the intention? If that's the intention, then they will fail. Because nobody has given anyone a permit to do so. And we will investigate, and whoever is involved will be brought to the book.
The KEEA Municipal Police Command declined comment on the development. It is, however, a challenging situation for the hospital management as they are grappling with the need to protect their land and the well-being of their patients while also addressing the economic motivations of the sand-winning group. Richard Kwejenyako, Joy News, Ankafo Psychiatric Hospital.
From the central region, let me take you to the Ashanti region, where residents of Kumasi are unhappy about the state of the Swami Interchange project after the government cut short for work to start in October last year. During the sword-cutting ceremony, President Akufo-Addo assured residents of his commitment to complete the 4th-year interchange project. But residents claim the project site has now turned into a hideout for hooligans. Love FM's Nana Boachi Yadom has more.
The Swami Interchange project has suffered months of setbacks after appearing in the national budget thrice. President Akufo-Addo on October 18, 2022, cut short for construction work to begin on the project. KM boss Samuel Pine, in an interview with Joy News, said the government had already secured funding for the project. He claims the contractors are on site.
Oh, Swami Interchange, as we speak, I know contractors are on site, not the interchange itself, but the other ancillary roads that they need to work on. For example, when you are the bypass that they're going to use through the race course area, they finish the measurements and the drawings and everything. And they are working on other ones around the Swami community. So definitely, I know pretty soon they will be on site to commence work on the main in the phase one of the main project. Because if they don't take the traffic off the center of the runabout, is going to be another chaotic and unpleasant situation for road users. There's money for that project, so people shouldn't get worried.
But in an interview with a Kumasi-based radio station, Member of Parliament for Swami, Osei Mensabosu, said the government was yet to secure a loan for the project after IMF negotiations.
We are done with everything. This isn't a project sponsored by Ghana. We are seeking a loan from abroad. But because of the IMF deal, we are holding on. We are sure we will get the money by August.
Any indication say IMF deal size can be no cream is scano August.
Residents who had high hopes of the project were astonished. There are concerns the project site has turned into a hideout for hooligans. They want the government to fulfill its promise of completing the project before the 2024 general election.
I say, yeah, Baba to a bar, yeah, baby, say, better than my So the normal by go some by interchange no. Mama pause because election in Yandria.
They always make promises when we get close to the election period. They are waiting for 2024, but we know they can't complete what they started.
The normal by go some baby. You to abandon ya normal self so. I don't know question. They say hi. Fu power then Kamuni chance in through. Chance you will be petty abandoned and so. Or Makoto chance you the Abu and say, and I'm from Martinukwa. Me out control on the mass. So it's someone interchange. No matter how no moon two chances in from my name Munda.
Come by ya, I'm not on Ben. I check. And I'm there on some. Mitimo say, I'm Bezusu, I'm Abezusu, I'm Abezusu, I'm Mahumbium. It's me, I'm a Jiddy interchange in Yadia say, I'm betting my animanumia.
I don't think the project can be completed before the 2024 election, considering the time it cuts off for it to commence. Drivers always find it difficult using the road. If they complete the interchange, it will make the road safe for the drivers and reduce accidents.
For Joy News, Nana Boche Dankwa Yadom reporting.
Now, passengers in Ghana are left frustrated and angered as transport operators fail to comply with the agreed fare reduction despite the continuous decrease in prices of petroleum products. The Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council and the Ghana Private Road Transport Union has issued a joint press release on May 15 announcing the downward review of fares effective May 17, 2023. However, more than 48 hours after the directive was supposed to take effect, drivers have refused to implement the fare reduction. The situation has left many passengers confused and increasingly frustrated with the lack of adherence to the agreed upon decision. We spoke to some of them earlier.
I don't get it why the say it's from the top. The list came. So why didn't they go through all that, like talking to the drivers before bringing out the new list? They should have done that before. That's not our problem. Our problem is for them to like reduce the distance so that we also enjoy it and get it. Do you understand? Whatever problem they need, they should just go and talk to themselves. I think they shouldn't come and communicate to us that they want to reduce fares and they are telling us they have spare parts and whatever to buy. That is not our own. Do you get my point?
Well, you can go to market and buy some food stuff, which is increased. Tomatoes, vegetables, and so on. It's still the same price. We still buy the same price. So I don't get if the government said have reduced to 10%, the drivers said no. I agree with them. I agree with them. You have to let everything come down before they can do something about it.
Yeah, so since the announcement came, that was on Tuesday, that fares were going to be reduced. There hasn't been any change as far as I'm concerned. I move around town a lot, from Nungwa to Dankwa to Bubashi to Kaneshi. I move around town a lot. It's still the same fares I pay since Wednesday. There's been no change at all.
Me, I don't agree with them because I learned the petrol has been reduced. The price of petrol has been reduced. So I don't.
So why is the situation the same when indeed drivers have been communicated to? Thankfully, member of the communications team of the GPRTU, Samuel Amwa, joins us via Zoom with details on this. Samuel, thank you so much for making time to be with us this evening. So I'm sure the concerns that have been raised by passengers have been brought to your attention. What really is the difficulty in your members implementing this new directive?
Yeah, thank you very much, Emefa. Let me take this opportunity to say good evening to your viewers out there and every driver and all our clients, that is our passengers. You know, what is on the ground right now is, yes, there was we issued a communique that there is going to be a reduction. You know, the reason why things change again was that we normally don't look at only one component before we think of adjusting or reducing our transport fares. And what happened was that, this reduction should have come earlier, before a month ago. It was delayed because we were complaining about the increase of spare parts and other, components that we used to run our businesses. So, when we finally met, there was an agreement that, these spare parts and other components, most especially the spare parts, that is where our problem was, will also be reduced. that is why the communique came out that, even if I recall, the communique even came out before, the fuel reduction also came. But we had an agreement that hopefully the spare parts are also going to be reduced, of which after the communique came out, it was still the same. That is where, our drivers also started complaining that, spare parts are high now. When you go to the spare parts market, most of the items there have been increased, about 100%, some 80% and all that. So if the government is saying that drivers should reduce their transport fares, and we have agreed, and spare parts dealers also have to reduce their spare parts, and they are not agreeing to what we agreed on, then it means that drivers are going to be in a tight corner. So
Mr. Apawu, so what I'm hearing you say is sort of a justification as to why your members are not implementing this particular directive that you made public. Is it the case that you buy spare parts every day for your operations, such that if the spare parts prices are not going down, we will not see transport fares go down, even though petrol has gone down?
You see, whenever there is going to be a transport adjustment, we have other components that we consider before we can also think of increasing or decreasing our transport fares. The components, the major one, petroleum product, and we come to the spare parts, lubricant, and taxes. Okay, so when we were thinking of reducing the transport fares, we also look at the cost of the spare parts, and there was a promise that the spare parts are also going to be reduced, and they failed. That is why it happened like that. So immediately, the leadership has to meet and think of what to do. So quickly, the leadership met and we decided to, call off this decision of reducing by 10%, as we agreed.
So you are saying that the decision to reduce by 10% has been called off? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it has been called off based on the agreement and the promises we had, and it failed. So this time around, the leadership are going to meet, again, and then submit their report and give the ministry the reason why, we couldn't implement this 10%, reduction that we were agreed on.
I'm curious, Mr. Apawu. I'm curious because we've been following this for some time now. Who called it off? And what kind of talk went into the GPRTU? I don't know if you did this in consultation with the GRTCC. Did the GPRTU just decide to call this off unanimously?
Yeah, the GPRTU decided to call it off because we find out that the agreement of spare parts also, coming down, didn't go the way we all agreed on. And if you check, there are so many things. Normally, they normally say that whenever transport fare goes up, it affects everything in the country. We remember when we were asked to reduce our transport fares, we did, thinking that the market women and other, spare parts dealers and other things are also going to reduce. But it didn't happen like that. So when it happens like that, then all eyes will be on the drivers, and it looks like drivers who work, and at the close of the day they will go home empty-handed.
But is this not a bad faith? Is this not a bad faith on the part of the drivers?
Come again?
I'm asking if this is not a bad faith on the part of the drivers, considering that you had communicated to your passengers that this is what is going to happen. Then all of a sudden, you just make a U-turn even without informing your passengers about it.
Oh, yes. See, when this thing happened, we started talking about it today. Actually, we decided to meet the Transport Ministry and come out with a communique, of which, we all agreed that we meet on Monday based on what is happening. But we find out that, hey, spare parts is one of the components we use. And now those things are up. Other things, even now, as I'm speaking now, electricity tariff is also going up. Everything in the country is going up. And drivers have been asked to, reduce their fares without thinking of, the other things that we also use. That is why the drivers say, no, if it happens like that, then it's like, yes, you guys.
But is it only drivers who are affected by increase in electricity tariffs? Is that what you're saying? We are all affected by it.
No,
your word is your word.
Only drivers. Yes, it's not only drivers, okay, but we are also part, all right? And the business that we are running, let's take it like, those vehicles that we are using,
Government didn't produce those vehicles for us. And individuals that bought the vehicles want to run a business. And here is the case: a vehicle will get spoiled, and if you go to the spare parts market to go and buy parts to come and just fix it up, you can buy it.
Okay.
Every driver will attest to this fact. I get it. So if it happens that we've had a meeting, we have agreed, okay, drivers, we have agreed that we are going to reduce our transport fares by 10%. We also complain about the cost of spare parts. It's okay, fine. We are speaking to them. They're also going to reduce. At the end of the day, drivers came out with their reduction, but spare parts dealers also refused to reduce theirs. Then it means that if drivers goes ahead to, go by how it is going now, then it means that a time will come they can't continue with their businesses. That is why drivers decided that no. Then it means that the spare parts dealers and other things also has to think about how to reduce it so that it can be balanced.
So what you're saying is, as it stands now, bringing the GRTCC shortly. So as it stands now, your customers, passengers, should not expect a reduction in transport fares anytime soon, unless spare parts are reduced. Is that what you're saying?
What we are saying is, as it stands now, the GPRTU today has come out that the transport fare reduction of 10% has been withdrawn.
Okay.
Until we meet again with the Transport Ministry, present our issues, why we withdraw that statement. Then we see if the spare parts dealers can also reduce theirs. Then we think about it and we come out with, if we have to reduce, how much percentage are we going to reduce?
Okay.
Or if not,
stay with me, Mr. Amwa. You've made that point. Let me bring in the Secretary of the Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council, Emmanuel Ohene Yeboah. Thank you so much. He's joining us via phone. We're grateful for your time. So how is it that your passengers are being taken for granted? One day it is the fact that 10% reduction. The next time we are hearing GPRTU now tell us that it's been withdrawn, cancelled. How then are we taking these decisions? Is it the case that you're not consulting wide enough? Why should we be bearing the brunt?
Thank you very much, Emefa. I want to thank you and greet your listeners and your viewers. Honestly, I'm surprised for hearing someone saying the GPRTU has issued a statement to grow the 10% reduction as of today. As far as I'm concerned, I don't have any information to that effect. So I still think the 10% still holds, and the drivers are called on to implement it and let passengers enjoy that reduction. So,
but you've heard them, Mr. Ohene. I don't know what kind of consultations went on, but for them, you may have announced 10%, but spare parts, other issues come to play, including electricity tariffs all going up. So you ought to tell the spare parts dealers to also reduce before they can.
Yes, I understand that every spare parts are a bit on the higher side. But the point is that I don't remember meeting to discuss or negotiate for transport fare increase or reduction. And the emphasis has been on spare parts strongly as it is now. Mm-hmm. If you remember, between December and now, the fuel price has gone down cumulatively between petrol and diesel for about 40%. So, and we have a standing arrangement that anytime fuel goes up about 10%, we increase our transport fare. Same way, if it drops below 10%, we do have to reduce our transport fare. So if we have a reduction of 40% and we've done only 10% reduction, it stands to reason that we have an excess of about 30 or 20 more percent to take care of that extra cost, which has not been factored in. Because ideally, spare parts and other components of the operational cost is considered once every year when we are going to increase transport fares at the beginning of the year. But thankfully, because of the fuel price reduction, we haven't spoken about increase this year.
Okay.
So it hasn't really kicked in. So notwithstanding, because there's a reduction in fuel price, we have that base of about 30%, like a cushion whatever shocks is coming from the spare parts market.
Okay.
There again, if you look at the spare parts, you rightly say, spare parts are not bought every day. You buy one axle, it can take you for the life of the vehicle. Lubricants are bought maybe 3 months. So it's not something that will factor into every pricing negotiation. If you remember, anytime there's a call for a price increase on transport fares, it is normally based on the increase of petroleum products. So I don't see why we are shooting a goalpost now, because we have to reduce.
Okay, for us, those who patronize these transport means of transport, we are only interested in what you had said earlier. What then happens? You've heard the drivers. You don't buy these vehicles for them. You can't impose such reductions on them without considering all the other factors that go into running this kind of business. You owe us an apology then as passengers, don't you?
Fantastic. You don't buy the vehicles. The government don't buy vehicles for us. Yes. But the fact also remains that we operate in the public space where the public also have an interest. And that is the reason why when we have to meet for price increase, the ministry has to come in to hold the interest of the traveling public. So if we are like a corporate body, go to SPC, go to other corporate bodies, they have their own pricing system because they have their own facilities. That is their company facility. But when we are operating in the public space, which belongs to the government of Ghana, and we are saying we don't buy the vehicles for us, so we can do whatever we like in their state, then we are not being fair to the issue.
What then happens? What then happens? Would there be any punitive measures that will be applied in this particular case?
Well, I can't speak for punitive measures now because I don't think I'm close with our powers to determine that.
Okay.
But what I'm saying now is that if you want to be fair to the issue, if you look at what the scenario the narration I've given you, if you see that our drivers are just trying to be unduly difficult. I agree with them. I agree that times are hard. Things are going up. But we have a responsibility to execute our part of the bargain. Once we execute our part of the bargain, we don't have any reason why we say nobody is doing this. In fact, this thing kicked in around, I think, last Wednesday.
Exactly.
Today is Friday. Today is Friday. We have only 2 days. So if somebody says papers are not being reviewed, I started to think that maybe we are not being fair to the issue.
Okay.
Because papers reduction are not announced already.
Okay.
They are not announced in the papers. But when fuel prices are reduced, they are announced in the radio and on papers, so that everybody can see that this is what is happening.
Okay.
And papers purchase is not a regulated commodity. You go to the bank, you negotiate based on the negotiation, you get what you want. So I don't see why we are bringing in all these things.
Okay.
We can sit and decide on the mode of implementation, all that. But I think we didn't treat our passengers fairly.
Okay. We're grateful. We'll leave it here for now and see what happens in the coming days. We are grateful. That's Emmanuel Ohene-Yeboah, the Secretary for the GRTCC. And earlier also, we've been interacting with Samuel Amwa, who is the communications person for the GPRTU. I'll take you now to Nigeria. It's a very good time to do that because the federal government of the country is giving assurances that it will facilitate a smooth transition of power to the newly elected administration. Former Governor of Lagos, Bola Ahmed, is succeeding his predecessor and close ally in the ruling parties, President Muhammad Buhari. Already 2 opposition political parties are in court challenging the outcome of the elections and asking for a reversal of a declaration by the Independent National Electoral Commission to retain the governing APC in power. Well, in spite of the proceedings, President Buhari was sworn in the presidential team which work with the incumbent government before swearing day in the next 10 days.
The committee I chair is known as the Facilities, Security and Intelligence Committee. It is perhaps the most critical of all the committees by virtue of the nature of its own tasking, and that is why membership of the committee comprises of representatives or heads of agencies at the highest level: the Chief of Defense Staff, the Inspector General of Police, the Director General of the SSS, the Director General of the National Intelligence Agency, and the governor of Kebbi State, who sits in as a representative of the incoming president. Now, our main function and our primary concern is the provision of both overt and covert security cover for all the venues where the programs already mentioned by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation will take place, as well as hotels in which invited guests and dignitaries will be staying for the period of the up to the inauguration and its immediate aftermath. Now, the main functions will last. The span and scope of our work is before the inauguration, during the inauguration, and after the inauguration, till everybody disperses. Our work has been done. We've been able to work on the restriction of movement. There are certain key areas around the Eagle Square, which is the epicenter, up to a certain range in which security agencies have been tasked to give adequate protection. There will also be traffic diversion and the provision of alternative routes for motorists and pedestrians. Again, the general public is being enlightened on these changes so that it wouldn't be a sudden shock. Already work has been in progress in this regard. Finally, the committee has concluded all arrangements for the accreditation and issuance of tags, passes, and identity documents for all security agents. My only advice is that if you have no business in security, you need not be near the vicinity of the program, especially on the inauguration day. The most important thing I need to convey to you is that we do not foresee, we do not envisage anything that will be adverse or negative. So I urge everybody to be calm, and the people who use the social media, please understand this till our visitors, especially.
Let me bring in my colleague, Blessed Sogan of our Foreign Affairs Desk, and he's just returned from Abuja, joining us via Zoom. So I will talk about your trip to Abuja shortly, but let's talk about the transition. I've heard him talk about invited guests. Do we have a wind of who and who is attending, especially when we've been, some presidents have been cautioned not to partake in this particular transition?
Well, Emefa, we have just about 10 days to go, which means that they have some ample time to confirm the full list of dignitaries that will be attending this very inaugural ceremony that will see President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu take the reins of power in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It will be a highly patronized event, given the fact that this is Africa's most populous nation, their powerhouse, first of all, to the West Africa sub-region and then to Africa itself. So you would expect that a lot of states and non-state actors, but by extension, I'm talking about governments, presidents, would want to, of course, attend. Nigeria is very strategic to West Africa because Nigeria is hosting the ECOWAS framework that binds all West African countries. So you would expect that leaders such as President Akufo-Addo, if invited, would have to show some level of commitment to the spirit of the economic community where we find ourselves and other West African leaders. It's the reason for which a couple of days ago you were engaging some leading figures of the PDP who are of the view that pending the determination of the case in the appeal court of Nigeria, it will be better for this inaugural ceremony to be put on hold to allow the processes to be exhausted in court. But unfortunately, that's not what's happening in Nigeria. A couple of, well, let me say earlier today, I was at the Eagle Square in Abuja, and I can confirm that the military has started their operations, what you'd call the recce, and also their rehearsals for the that will be the inaugural parade that will usher in a new president for the Federal Republic. Just had the National Security Advisor there talk about security. Security is on the top of the agenda because of the location and where you find the Eagle Square, where the inaugural ceremony is happening. It's just about 500 meters away from where the court case is being heard. So you would expect that supporters of the Labour Party, of the PDP and others would want to flood the area. So that's why security is very high. Security is top on the agenda.
Speaking about the court though, Blessed, today the appeals court was supposed to hear a case also about whether the court process should be televised, amongst others. You'll be monitoring that court proceedings also closely. What do we know? What are we learning?
And it's quite surprising that, unlike the Ghanaian case, where of course you would expect that the Supreme Court will just make it as part of the formalities, Nigeria is having quite a winding process in coming to a determination on that matter. It started off with an application earlier this week by the Labour Party, which is now, of course, being accepted as a third force in Nigeria, asking for a televised session where they believe that the Nigerian people would have to follow what's happening in court. Then the PDP, the largest opposition party, followed through with another application asking for the same televised proceedings. Then the court asked the two of them to appear in court today on Friday, possibly a ruling to be taken. Our understanding was that the Labour Party did not or could not get the opportunity to advance their case in court, so they gave them the opportunity to make that argument again as to why they would want a televised session. Then now the court is unable today again to decide on whether or not it will allow for the proceedings to be televised. So that's been shifted to next week. We still have to wait. But if that opportunity is given, then it means that the proceedings will now be live. The INEC, which is the election management body in Nigeria, is fighting this vigorously. They don't see the reason why. The figures should be out there in the public domain. The incoming government or the incoming party or the governing party, the APC, also believe that the session should not be televised. So the opposition parties are using that against the court and against the INEC, saying that, well, if you have nothing to hide, just make the process very transparent. But in fact, preparations are underway. The streets of Abuja are being cleaned up, some paintings being done just to ready the area.
But in all this, though, you've been to Abuja, at least you've been to Nigeria. Is Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the country now? Because we know he's been flying in and out frequently after his election.
For the exact location, even for security reasons, you had the National Security Advisor indicating that if you have nothing to do with security,
don't come there.
Don't dare ask about details or even come close to the place. It tells you that obviously Bola Ahmed Tinubu's whereabouts is something we're not able to confirm now. But for President Buhari, he's made some public appearances after the swearing in this transitional committee, and it appears that he's made a decision to honor, guess what, former President Goodluck Jonathan. He says he's done something unprecedented, and what's that? This is a sitting president who lost an election and gave him a call. So based on that, when he's doing his national honors before leaving office, he's definitely going to honor Goodluck Jonathan. He's also set to honor, guess what, Bola Ahmed Tinubu himself and some other individuals. And
a lot of interesting happenings in Nigeria.
In Nigeria as well. So
I must say, already looking at you and your outfit, you're already looking like a Nigerian senator. I hope you did not try that Nigerian jollof too, did you?
Well, getting used to it, but Basi has made the arguments all redundant now by trying to the longest period of time. So that's what's happening in Nigeria. But we must see that security is on high alert. And I'm just wondering how Nigeria would be able to go ahead with the inaugural proceedings while the court case is still running. It will mean that almost the entire area of the government official areas, well, of course, these activities will be happening.
We'll catch you again, so you give us all the rundown. And I know you'll be following all the way to Inauguration Day on May 29. Thank you so much, Blessed Suga, Foreign Affairs correspondent, bringing us details from his trip to Abuja. And we'll give you more on Joy News and also on myjoyonline.com. It's a good time to take a quick break here on Joy News Prime. Please stay with us. And it's time for Showbiz. It's a Friday. What a way to end the week. Becky is here with the very latest from the world of showbiz. How has the week been?
Fantastic. Good news is that Strongman is getting married, and we're very excited about it. Earlier on Daybreak Hits, he's been talking about how he's been with his wife for, or his baby mama for a decade, and now he's ready to put the ring on it.
Are you planning on getting married?
Yeah, probably this year. Yeah. I feel with the me ware na free opera kuna.
Strong Jersey. This year?
Yeah.
Really?
This year, yeah. The person me free opera kuna who say like me person me messed up kuna.
This is a journey forever.
Oh yeah. But we've stayed for 8 years now. And we've stayed together for over 7 years.
Does she come in your way?
Nah, in terms of music.
Yes, in your work, your line of work.
Nah.
Sometimes you have to step out in the night. Sometimes you have to go for days. Sometimes months. You have to go and you don't come back. And, you know, ladies. Now, but
for her, she understands. Or like, I say it's music, so she understands me. And she was a fan way back before even I met her. And she said, this is what I want to do. So she supports me a lot.
From Strongman, Ghanaian hip live musician Prince Brice says he's on a mission to throw more light on female musicians here in Ghana. He thinks that they are not being celebrated enough, and so this is him advocating for support for female musicians here in Ghana.
I might as well say it. You know what I'm saying?
Great.
The women in the industry don't get a lot of features.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And I know everybody's saying, oh, Bright there, he's all about the women. If any negativity should come, they'll say, oh, Bright did this to somebody, Bright did that. Now I'm letting the music speak for itself.
Great.
I love women and I respect women. Not in a negative sense, but in a positive sense. I would support any woman who is in the industry trying to put their creatives together, their animals' desire that they want everybody to see together. I want them to know I am behind them. I will promote, I will support any woman in the industry until I see the Ghana flag being raised so high. I want to see Miss V out there doing big things. I want to see, what's her name? Fontana doing amazing things. I want to see Wendy doing amazing things. I want to see Sister Fria doing amazing things. You know what I'm saying? I want to see my beloved Sinner Soul, my sister. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, when I say meanwhile, she knows where we coming from. You know what I mean? Sinner, I love Sinner to death. My queen, Adina. You know what I mean? All these amazing vocals. You know what I mean? We have such angelic vocals in Ghana.
Why do I have a feeling that you have all of these beautiful women on there?
These are things I'm telling you. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm the king here, surrounded by all these amazing queens.
Yeah.
And why not do something magical?
All right, let's talk about events that you should look forward to. For those of you in the U.S., Black Sherif has a show tomorrow at the Palladium Square. If you're anywhere around New York, please join the Artist of the Year, the Vodafone Ghana Music Awards Artist of the Year. He will be thrilling people who can make it. Also, Jackie, had an event, but unfortunately, she's apologizing to her fans in the UK and Paris after cancelling some shows she was billed to play at later this month. In a post on social media, Jackie revealed that she is unwell, adding that she wants to take care of her health before she takes on more projects. She noted that as much as she hates to postpone her shows, her health must be a priority. Meanwhile, Jackie stated that all tickets the fans bought are still valid, adding that a new date will be communicated to them soon. Also, still on tours and still in the US, Sarkodie obviously is ready to thrill all his fans across the world. His jumps World Tour is ready, and so we're announcing to you, or we're reminding you that you should get your ticket because Sarkodie will be in a city near you.
And of course, we know that Becky has unfettered access to Sarkodie, so she'll give us, because he told you that as for when you come, don't be mentioning any stations, just mention Becky, and you have that access. So you see how powerful
I hope that
is.
when eventually I tell him about Evans's interview, he will not say that.
So we are inviting you publicly.
For
Sarkodie.
PM Express.
We need you for PM Express as well. Stoneboy has had his share. It's your turn. You know Evans is a Sarkodie guy. So at least the rap will definitely happen this time round. We'll redeem us and no more as a rap or a response to Stoneboy. And that's how we wrap up.
Well, I'm not part of this.
You actually instigated this. But that's how we wrap up today's edition. I'm sure you want to take us through. And that's it for tonight's edition. I wish we don't have to go, but we definitely have to go. Where are we going this evening? What's happening?
To church to pray to God.
You are
for a boyfriend or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah. God is watching. May He answer your prayers. We have business up next with Pius is single, you know.
Oh,
okay.
Great.
Pius Kojobaka is up next. He has business. I am Emefa Apawu. There's more when you log on to myjoyonline.com. Do enjoy your weekend and stay safe. Don't forget to tune in for Newsfile at 9 a.m. tomorrow.